So tell me about yourself.
Man, well, you wouldn't believe it, but I was born right here on the island. Shall I tell them how many years ago?
Feel free.
Well, I've been here for 78 years, and born in 37, and went to school here at Langley. Let's see, I graduated from high school. They gave me a diploma, so but I did graduate from high school. And I went to a trade school, Edison Technical in Seattle, and took up the carpentry trade, and served my apprenticeship there in Seattle, worked for 2-3 different contractors, and then I got started on my own, came back here to the island, and built the parsonage for the Lutheran Church here, St. Peter's Lutheran Church. And then I was still single at the time, and I decided maybe I need some more education. So then I started over here at Everett Junior College. And I had to go to night school because they had too many kids. I couldn't get in the day program, so I started out at night school. And then after a couple of quarters of night school, I was considered a returning student. So then I got in the day program, and I spent 2 more years there, taking all the basic things. And so then, maybe I should tell you this too. See, I thought I was going to go to the UW, and see, I wanted to be a teacher, and so, but they required a foreign language, say. So I thought, well, my grandmother on one side was German, and we learned a few German phrases, and so I thought maybe that would be the foreign language. So I started, and I got in the first quarter over here at Everett Junior College, and after the first quarter, why the teacher called us in one by one, give us a little conference and tell us how we did. And one of the first things she said to me, she says, Roy, she says, I would suggest you not continue on in German. So then at that time I decided, because see, the UW required a foreign language, and then I decided, well, I got to find a school that doesn't require a foreign language, and so that's how I ended up over at Central in Ellensburg. And so then I transferred my credits over there to Central in Ellensburg. Spent 4 years there, and I just happened to be there the day that they were handing out teacher's degrees, and so I got in line, and sure enough they gave me a teaching degree. And I taught school for 2.5 years. Started out at Benson Polytech down in Portland. That's a trade school at the high school level down there in Portland, and I taught down there, and then both my wife and I signed contracts for right over here in Marysville. And I spent 2 years over here in Marysville teaching industrial arts. I had all the woodworking classes and most of the mechanical drawing classes. But those years, the salary wasn't real great, and I was having a hard time making a living, so I decided I need to do something else. So after 2 years teaching over here in Marysville, I knew the people in the industrial arts department really well over at Central, and so I applied for a fellowship, and sure enough I got a fellowship. So we moved back over to Ellensburg for another year, and again I happened to be there the day they were handing out master's degrees. So I got in line, and sure enough they gave me a master's degree. And then after that I moved back here to the island, and I started in with my brother in the construction business, and I did some interviewing for there were 2 positions open at Spokane Community College, and I interviewed for that and everything, and I came back home, and the next Tuesday they called me and they offered me one of those positions at Spokane Community College. And then I thought a little bit about it and prayed about it, and it only paid $10,600 a year. And so my brother and I were paying ourselves like $4.50 an hour, and so I was making more money here than I would if we'd moved the family over to Spokane, so I just stayed right here.
What year was that when you were making $4.50 an hour?
Oh, that when we first started out here, that was way back in 68.
Okay,
Yeah.
$4.50 an hour,
Yeah.
raising a family.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's kind of my education days, and so I've been here on the island ever since, and doing new construction, lots of remodel work, and we did some commercial work here too. We built an Arco service station right up here in the top of the hill there, and then we also built the fire station at Bayview for the fire district. That was the commercial work that we did. We did some remodel work too for commercial stuff. But you know, we had our lean times too. We you know, when the Boeing's lost the SST program, you know, and the economy kind of went downhill, you know, and so we struggled a little bit, but over the long haul, well, it was a good business. Yeah, good business. Yeah, construction business. Yeah.
Can you tell them a little bit about what it, I'm going to jump in here, Meg, about what it means to like be a professional in a small community, like with your fire service and your water district service and your, and your cemetery service?
Yeah, see, when we got established here, why, my brother was a firefighter for the Fire District 3 at the south end of Whidbey, and he talked me into being a firefighter too. So then I joined the fire department, and I spent, it was a volunteer department, you know, it wasn't a paid department, and they paid us like a dollar for each meeting we went to, and $3 for a fire call. Even though we'd be out in the middle of the night, 3 hours for an accident and up the highway someplace, you know. But that's okay. So I spent 37 years as a volunteer firefighter and an EMT. I was an EMT also. Yeah. And then they talked me into being a water district commissioner. That's been about 42 years ago too. And I'm still a water district commissioner here on the south end for the Clinton Water District. You know, it's just being a firefighter. What better way is there to help out your neighbors? You know, when somebody's hurting, you know, while you're right there to help them. You know, so that part was good. Yeah. So that pretty well brings you up to date.
So what was your life like when you were in 8th grade?
In 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Let's see. One of the things I do remember, I took clarinet lesson. I played the clarinet, and I took clarinet lessons from Mrs. Burley way back in the 5th, 6th grade, and then in the 7th and 8th grade, the high school were hurting for a clarinet player. So as a 7th grader, I went up and played in the high school band, in the clarinet section in the high school band. And I did that for 2-3 years. And then when I got in high school, then of course I wanted to play football, you know, so I couldn't play in the band and turn up for football at the same time. So then I forgot the band and yeah, went on to play football and track. Yeah, but in the 8th grade, I struggled in school. The school subjects did not come easy for me. And one of the basic reasons that I struggled, I couldn't read. I'm blind in one eye. And so I've had to deal with that all these years. But I think I've overcome some of that. And so anyhow, it was in '59, they still had the draft here. And I knew my draft number was coming up, so I joined the draft. And went up Mount Vernon, went down to the induction center in Seattle. And then they required me to go to an eye doctor. So over Fort Lawton, I went to an eye doctor, and that's when I discovered that I was blind in one eye. Yeah, he says you only have 2,800 vision.
And how old were you at the time?
Hmm?
How old were you at the time when you discovered that?
I was, how big, 16, 59, I would have been like, 18.
18 years old.
Yeah.
And so your whole childhood, you were blind in one eye
Yeah.
and you didn't know it.
Yeah. See, in about my folks knew that I couldn't see very well, and so about in the, I don't know where it was, the first grade or so, I got glasses, you know, and that kind of helped my vision a little bit, you know. And I've worn glasses ever since. And now I go to a great doctor over here in the Everett Clinic, who's really on top of everything, so, yeah.
If you had any advice for 8th graders, what would it be?
Pardon me again?
If you had any advice for 8th graders, what would it be?
You know, I taught Sunday school classes for years and years and years too, at the church we're going to now, Christian Missionary Alliance. And one of the verses that I used to quote at the end of every class was, maybe some of you know that, study to show yourself approved, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And I used to tell that to my kids at the end of every Sunday school class. And I think I would still say that today. Study to show yourself approved, a workman that needed not to be ashamed. Yeah, that's a good verse. And I used to tell my kids as they grow up too. Maybe they were in the 8th grade at that time. I don't know. I don't care what you do for a living, but you got to work hard at it, and you got to be good at what you do. There's too many mediocre kids out there, you know, that just you know, throw in this, throw in that, you know. You got to be good at what you do. So go to school. Not everybody has to be a college graduate, but get some kind of training. Go to trade school. Go some kind of training, apprenticeship program even of some kind, you know, so you can get trained. But whatever your interests are, be good in that. Don't just do a half-horse job, you know. Be good at whatever you want to do, you know. And so I guess it's every dad's wish that one of his sons would follow along his footsteps. Well, my youngest boy is in the same business that I was, in the building business, and he does new construction, remodel work. Mr. Larson here can tell you.
He did this house last year.
Remodeled.
He remodeled the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was down to just plywood floors and just sheetrock. This is sheetrock. Just the ceilings and the plywood floors.
Yeah.
And well, they tore it all apart first. And Roy and I were here one day when you were here more than that, tearing it apart.
Yeah.
And then Ryan, his son, did all of this work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
My son just finished a new home in Freeland not too long ago, and he's doing a roofing job right now, but he does a lot of remodel work too, just like I did. But it's a good trade. It's a good trade. And then my oldest boy is a auto mechanic. He works for Jay's Auto Care over in Kirkland. Maybe you know of that outfit. And he's a supervisor there now for Jay. And then our daughter, she took after her mother. She's a school teacher down in Federal Way. And so it's great. You bet. Yep. You got to be good at what you do. It doesn't make any difference what you do. Whatever you choose to do, you know, but you got to be good at it.